Hey guys, just before the podcast gets started, don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications so you never miss an upload. Hello everybody and welcome back to the Yellow Squared podcast, and that's right, you're hearing my voice this week as well as James's. And good morning, James. Welcome back to the podcast.
Good morning, mate. Thanks for coming back to bail me out. I didn't want to have to do another one of those on my own. But yeah, it's good to have us back, and there's a few bits to talk about this week, isn't there?
Yeah, a couple of little bits. Obviously, Bristol City was yesterday. First penalty for 170 odd days. 100, 370
300.
odd days. Over a year now, as it turned a few days ago. So that was nice, but on the whole, it was a bit of a nothing game, really, wasn't it, James? Not much happened other than the penalty.
Yeah, I think we had. To be honest, I think we had the chance to probably win it in the first half, and then second half, um, I just didn't think we really properly got going, and it just became a bit scrappy. And yet again, Hamer keeps us in a game with some
Yeah.
wonderful saves. But I think yesterday, for me, just summed up our season really in some respects. Heads went for about 5 minutes, which cost us the goal. Andrews, Porteous, and Livermore, I don't think will look back at it fondly. For me, particularly Porteous, because he sort of scuffs a clearance. If he just connects with that clearance, the danger's gone. But he scuffs
Yeah.
the clearance into the player, and it's a good leap from Twine, but he does he pins Livermore on the floor, doesn't he? Really, so it kind of
Yeah.
makes it look worse than it is. But how many times we said that we just sort of fell apart for 5 or 6 minutes, let Bristol City build up a head of steam, and eventually they score. And then in the final third, all afternoon really, I thought we tried to overplay a bit and just needed to get the shots away.
Yeah.
Um, you've got to say Asprilla should score, but I think as good as he was, Chakvetadze's ball across wasn't the most helpful to
No.
Asprilla.
No.
I just needed to play it on the floor, and I think Asprilla to try and take it
Or just touch it
first
back
first
inside for
time.
Rivich.
Yeah, exactly. There were plenty of chances I thought that we kind of butchered in the final third
Yeah.
throughout the game. So whilst we could have lost it, we absolutely as well could have won it. But hey ho, mate. Listen, at one point yesterday afternoon, I checked, we were in the playoffs, but we're still 3 points off, but remain unbeaten. So
Yeah.
not terrible.
No, it's nice to kickstart the new year with a little unbeaten streak. Hopefully, we can keep that going for a little bit longer than we have done in previous years. So yeah, it was an okay game yesterday. Like you said, we had some chances to get forward. I thought Chakvetadze was quite good again, but on the
Yeah,
whole, I think the ball sort of bypassed the midfield far too much. In the first half, we looked really dangerous when we got, the likes of Kone and Deli Bashir on the ball, on the half
yeah.
turn and driving at the Bristol City midfield, and they really couldn't handle that. So
Yeah, I don't know whether or not that was tactical from Bristol City, that they noticed
maybe,
that Kone and Della Bashiru were getting on the half turn, and they kind of tightened it up, because you're right, it really did dry up, didn't it?
yeah, yeah.
For probably
The second half,
the
we
second
didn't.
half
I
really. I
I
mean, we
didn't
didn't.
see it happen once in the second half.
No, we started to go wide, didn't we, in the
Mm.
second half? Out to Andrews, and when Lewis came on, he looked a bit more threatening. But yeah, it just
Yeah,
dried up,
I didn't
which
know
was
if there
which
was
was a shame.
a correlation really between Lewis coming on. You know, as much as I can respect James Morris for coming in and doing a job while Lewis was injured, I just I just don't see him being a championship player. And I'm not trying. I try not to dig people out, but I feel like the ball goes through the middle a lot more and down the right hand side when Morris plays, because he doesn't necessarily have the athleticism that somebody like Lewis would have, and the attacking intent down the left side um, really kind of dries up, when it comes from the fullback on that side with Morris there. But I think if you have Lewis there, there's much more of an attacking intent. And so I think it kind of naturally happens that the ball will drift wider. But to be honest, I feel like we've had a lot of success through the middle. With a lot of driving runs from any
Mm.
number of midfielders that have played in there. So you know, it it seemed like we had less joy out wide, particularly because, as we've seen so many times this season and last season, the ball into the box is never of a good enough quality. So not too happy about
Yeah,
that, and it seemed like we created a lot less when it started to go wider.
yeah, it was frustrating. And I think your point on Morris is a really interesting one as well because another player that I thought had a really good game again yesterday was Hoot. Um, and out on that left-hand side, he loves to sort of open his body up and play the ball out to the left fullback to drive
Mm,
forward. And unfortunately, my take on Morris is that he's a dependable sort of defensive fullback.
yeah.
He will fulfill a job, but you do just lose that attacking threat, unfortunately, which I
Mm,
think someone like Hoot really wants to have that outlet that he can
yeah.
drive the
Yeah. Yeah.
drive the game forward. And we sort of saw yesterday that he was relying too much on having to come back across to either Hamer or Porteous, or
Mm,
try the big diagonal, which worked a few times. Um, but you can't really rely on it all the time. So yeah, I think that really did sort of become apparent yesterday, uh, where we're limited. Um,
yeah.
was there anybody else that stood out for you yesterday?
I what in terms of playing well or a little bit.
Whatever you think, mate. Whatever you think.
Well, to be honest, I think Bristol City must be some sort of a bogey team for Watford because there were a number of performances last time at home which were below standard, um,
Mm.
and I just think a couple of players just didn't really get going yesterday. Livermore looked a little bit shaky on the ball. I think he was probably thinking about shooting every time he got it rather than moving the
Yeah,
ball around. So yeah, that he's one that sort of stood out as having a little bit of a poor game, and obviously he gets pinned for the goal by Scott Twine of all people.
bloody Scott Twine.
I know
Yeah,
he loves scoring against Watford.
he's becoming the Tom Ince of the next
He is, yeah.
generation.
We'll have to sign him in a few years. Yeah. So Livermore, I didn't think he had a particularly good game. Porteous, he had that 5 minute spell in the first half. A couple of clearances which were genuinely like you're questioning where are you even trying to pass the ball to? And obviously his missed clearance leads to the goal, which is frustrating. But I thought he was okay other than that little brief spell. And
I think,
then
yeah.
I think Brajovic struggled again.
Mm.
Not necessarily that being his fault. I don't think there was any service to either striker because Bio came on and offered nothing really.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think many people particularly played badly. I think it was just more of a case of it just didn't really get going. I think we were sort
It,
of stuck in second or third gear.
I like your point on Rivich because I actually tuned into the Watford Ways live watch along for half time just to kind of see what's going on, and we
Mm.
had a bit of a chat about Rivich with James, and I actually said I thought he was having one of his better games in a Watford shirt
Mm.
compared with what we've seen in the past. Um, and James, rightly thought that it still wasn't good enough, and I
No, no.
I agree, and I personally think both sides of it are true.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Rajovic is a massive work in progress, and from what I saw from him yesterday, that it wasn't always coming off, but he was at least getting across his defender. Um, and there were a few times where he did manage to sort of get that little flick on, and he did manage to hold up the ball a few times. We shouldn't really be talking about this because it is Championship football, and we're trying to get to the playoffs. We shouldn't be talking about a striker being able to hold the ball up. Granted, but um, yeah, I thought I thought there were clear signs that he's improving,
Yeah, no,
and
I
he's
completely agree.
he's he's clearly taken on whatever coaching is coming his way, but it's still limited. And I would be honest, I think next season I would be loaning him out somewhere,
Mm.
um, because he is a goal scorer. Um, the chances just didn't fall to him yesterday.
No,
Apart from, I think there was one cross in the second half where he missed his header.
mm,
In fact, it was the one. I don't know if you remember it. It fell to Martins and he sort of hit it with the outside of his boot, and it was deflected for a corner.
mm.
And it was a perfect one for Rivich to kind of get his head in on it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Rivich, I
yeah,
find Rivich very frustrating.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think it's so obvious there's a player in there. I mean, he's still our top scorer, and he comes alive when he's in the box. But I have noticed, and I will give him credit for in the past few weeks for a real improvement in his strength on the ball and his hold up play and particularly his close ball control seems to have improved quite a lot as well. There were a couple of
yeah,
times where he had the touch of a trampoline, but other than
yeah.
that, he is improving. But like you said, we're trying to chase the playoffs, and we really can't be having the conversation about applauding a
No,
striker for holding the ball up,
no.
which literally is his job in that system. There's not going to be as much of a press with Rajovic, so that you can't. There's nothing you can train for that. Bless him, he just doesn't move around the pitch as fast as
It's just,
Bio.
yeah, he doesn't have the mobility.
No,
Um,
but he is getting better. But it's
yeah.
still frustrating because at times it does feel like we're a little bit of a man down.
But what was really nice, and I will say, not just to go back to QPR actually, is there was a little spell in the QPR game where Rivich worked his socks off to keep the ball
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah,
the left corner, and all of the fans, the Watford fans, everyone around us, and well across the whole stand, they were really, really sort of cheering Rivich. So I do think that he's warmed to a lot of the fan base.
yeah.
Um, because the effort is there, and I
Mm,
think that's
mm.
symptomatic of the entire team. But yeah. So I'll park Rajovic for a bit because Bio came on and he had that one chance, didn't he? That cutback.
Oh yeah, the
Do you
ball just
remember it?
goes under his feet. Yeah.
Under his feet, and I was sat there thinking,
I think if he'd played football in the last month,
yeah.
he would get on the end of that.
And I think that
It's
was
just
because all he
frustrating.
needed to do was just open his body up, didn't he?
Yeah,
Really, and just sort of, and honestly, go to the keeper's left, as I'm
yeah.
thinking,
The pace was on
because
the ball. It was a great cutback into a great
and just
area. It literally just needed some form of complete contact.
yeah, I guess, and he just fluffed it, and
Yeah,
oh, frustrating.
it
But I
is
suppose, mate,
frustrating,
I
but
suppose that leads us on to kind of what we wanted to chat about today, really.
yeah, yeah, it does. So the rumor mill and the transfer mill has been whirring in the past week or so around Watford. It was very quiet, wasn't it, at the start? But I think
Yeah.
we have to get a couple of elephants out of the room straight away. Great
Hmm.
bit of business on Reece Healey. Obviously,
Hmm.
I'm kind of a bit upset that he's gone because I actually really like the guy. Scored some really important goals for us off the bench, and it seemed like he was getting a little bit of a chance to prove himself as a starting striker. But 2 million flipped for literally nothing in the summer. It works out for all parties. He'll go and play a lot of football at Huddersfield over the next 6 months and into the
Yeah.
next year or so, or however long his contract is. So works for him. They're in need of a striker, and we get £2 million for it. So what are your thoughts on that
Yeah,
sale, James?
I get it. I absolutely echo your points. I think it's good business for everybody. I'm sorry to see him go. Um, he did score goals for us at key moments, like you said, but he never really got a run in the team. And I did have that nagging feeling that there were a couple of other chances that fell to him, which he didn't quite take.
Hmm.
A few people have been saying, Ismail never really gave him a chance,
No,
but
I think it's difficult. I think it's really
it's
difficult.
difficult. But also, I would argue that he was signed before Ismail, or I think was he signed before Ismail was appointed, or at
Oh,
least the deal
literally,
might have been
probably.
done.
I imagine he was, the deal was 99% in place before Ismail came in the door. Um,
And I think most people didn't they when they saw Healy and then you saw Loser, not Loser. Well, we'll talk about him in a minute.
yeah,
When you see Healy and you see Ismail,
yeah,
um, you don't think that's the striker that Ismail would want, and as
no,
it's proven to be, so kind of frustrating. but you got to take the business side of it, and I think that's a really nice tidy profit, and that's what we've got to do as a club now, I think. But yeah, not much more to add on Healy, mate.
No, no. Apart from, I think it's notable that he actually went and told Ishmael that he wanted to leave.
Oh yeah, great point.
A couple of weeks um, before he was, he was gone. So I think it's good that there's that kind of ability for a player to go and speak to Ishmael about something, and then
Yeah,
he'll get it, he'll get the deal in place. So yeah, I think it's good for him. We respected his, his wishes to leave, and
yeah,
I feel like we did him a good service of bringing him back to England to play football in a, a decent level. And he can solidify himself as a solid championship striker for the rest of his career. So I'm pleased for him, but at the same time
absolutely.
a little bit sad that he's left. Right
Sad that he's
then,
left
we'll
because it seemed like a good bloke. Yeah,
yeah, we'll move on then to another departure. Imran Louza, James. Little
yeah,
question for you.
yeah,
Opening day of the season, you were there. You've seen Imran Louza
yeah.
absolutely tear up QPR, tear up the championship. You're excited. You're thinking, wow, what a player, what a star role he's going to play this season. Flash forward 6 months, James. If I'd said to you Imran Louza would be going out on loan to FC Lorient in Ligue 1 for 6 months, what would you have done?
I would have assumed that something had happened, something massive had happened. Either we were um, tearing the league apart, and we were clear by miles, and we'd signed some absolute gems, and he just
Yeah,
couldn't get into the side, or the Pozzo circus had taken over, and you know Gino's going to prison, and we
yeah,
have to sell.
mm.
Stand by, but so, I'd have uh, thought that something crazy would have happened, because you're right. On the opening day, and I'm pretty sure I said it on the pod, um, he 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 orchestrated the entire team. He looked confident. He
Mm.
looked like a senior leader in that side, and I think he was part of the leadership group to
Yeah,
start with.
yeah, yeah,
Great goal, making things tick, and I wouldn't have been able to fathom a midfield without loser in it, in the
mm.
championship.
Yeah.
And it's just gone completely wrong, and we never know the full story.
No,
We never
no,
know the full truth. But yeah, it just feels like he's not carried himself particularly well. And I
no,
wonder,
no.
when we saw it quite a few times on the pitch, didn't we? The arms flailing, the arms waving around. um I wonder whether or not just the attitude
Yeah, I don't think
off the
that's the
pitch.
attitude Ishmael wants.
No, and I think Ismail probably ended up
Telling him that.
freezing him out, to be honest,
Yeah,
because he's not interested in that kind of player around the squad. And if it means that he goes, plays well, gets some confidence back, and he says, okay, well, I will come back to Watford to really try, and I suspect it's this one, the club are just trying to boost his value to say, listen, he's been playing league and football,
yeah,
playing well, he's now worth X, Y, or Z, and we get a nice profit for him in the summer.
yeah.
But I
Well,
suspect
yeah.
the other, sorry to jump in.
No, no, you're fine.
The other telling aspect of the whole deal, I think, is that it is just a loan deal. No loan with an option to buy.
No.
No, it, you know, nothing extra, or that's been reported anyway, in that deal. So it sounds like they just wanted him out of the club.
Yeah, and it's a complicated one with Loser, isn't it? His confidence is completely shot to pieces. I've never seen a player fall off so much in such a short space of time.
Mm.
And that's not like his ability or anything, just his confidence literally fell off a cliff. He played so well at the start of the season, really looked like he was orchestrating the team. Tail end of last season, became a key player when he wasn't injured. We'd always be looking forward to Loser coming back to sort of control games again, and
Yeah,
it seems so crazy that it would go so badly wrong for him. I hope he does go out and while he's on loan, he gets his confidence back. He starts playing some good football again. I don't
yeah,
think there's a place for him in this team. I just think his style of play is so different to the likes of Kembe and Kona, who are very much very industrial and and hard-working players. And no disrespect to Louza, but he's just not that kind of player.
No.
Um, which is a shame for him because I think he really could have been something at Watford once upon a time. But
Mm.
that's football, isn't it? Ultimately, it's constantly evolving, and I don't think we'll make a profit on him, given we spent what £11 million on him or 11 million
Something
euros on
like
him.
that, yeah. No,
So
I suspect it'll be around half that,
yeah,
if anything.
if that, if he has a good loan spell, I reckon we'll probably get 6 or 7 million for him. But
Maybe, yeah.
and that'll be on a good day. But yeah, it is a shame for him, but at the same time, it's a bit like Healey. I hope he goes and does well. There's no sort of hatred towards him.
Oh no,
Um,
none at all.
so yeah, I just hope he gets his career back on track. All right then, James. Just a couple more bits for the transfer news. No incomings as of yet. Just before we touch on
Yeah.
some names, any positions, given the last sort of month or so of fixtures, any positions you look at and think we need to strengthen for the rest of the season?
Um, yes, striker
Mm.
is. I think striker is the one position that we need, first team wise,
Yeah,
and then as in somebody to come into the first starting 11,
yeah.
and then I believe we need a central defensive midfielder
Mm.
and a right back.
Right
No,
back.
but I know that yes. Well, I say right back because we know that Ngakia is out for another month or so,
Mm.
and I suspect there will be some more rehab on the back of that, and that could be 7, 8 games. Um, and if we lose Andrews for injury,
Yeah,
that's a big chunk of
yeah.
the
That's fair.
season.
It's fair. It's fair.
And because Andrews is number one, so I would probably be looking at a depth option at right back,
Yeah.
either on loan, but somebody just to come in to cover to the end of the season. However, I'm saying this noting Ismail's comments midweek about the fact that he loves the fact that he's got Delabasri that can fill that position. I'll leave the silence there.
Yeah.
And Sia Ralter can come in and replace Jake Livermore. Again, cricket.
Yeah. That's.
Um, so I'm not sure, but we've said in Val we trust in some respects.
Yeah.
So I trust him to a degree, and I also massively respect. And I think there's a chatting with the Watford Buzz podcast about this. I respect that he is favouring a small squad
Oh yeah.
in which
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody in that team feels that they have a role and a part to play and
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
important, because I think that's more important than anything else. So if that's what he's going to go for, then so be it. But yeah, long-winded answer to your question. Sorry, mate. Striker, midfielder, and a cover at right back.
Yeah, you know what? I think they're kind of valid positions to look at. I would possibly add a left back in there. I don't know what the plans are of Jamal Lewis. He's
I
obviously
would,
on loan. I think there might be an option to buy involved in that.
yeah,
Uh,
I would
I,
be looking to activate that. By the way, I
yeah,
think
I would
as a
too.
championship left back, yeah,
I
especially if we,
100% would. Yeah, I don't know if there's the money that we can to spend what 6 million or something on a left back. But
yeah,
in any case, if they're not going to do that, I would definitely maybe look at bringing in someone, just for next season, or at least having a deal in place for the next window, while it opens. I agree with a striker. It seemed like they were making space by getting rid of Healey. So that should look to be a positive sign that they will bring in someone.
mm,
I definitely would agree with a right back, but I don't think that's going to happen given the
yeah,
comments and
no.
how Deli Bashiru can play right back. Uh, um.
Which is mad, just considering how well he played yesterday in that
Oh
centre
yeah, yeah,
midfielder
yeah.
role. Oh, and we haven't
Um.
talked about and can take a penalty, by the way.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Can take a penalty, can he? Ice cold from Deli Bashiru, but yeah. Yeah, I kind of agree with the right back position. in case Andrews gets injured, and I think Ngakia possibly will leave in the summer window. But yeah, agreeing with others. Maybe a defensive midfielder to cover for Livermore in case he gets injured. But like you said, apparently Serralta can cover there. And I would possibly look at a centre back. I know there were rumours about a centre back coming from Udinese and potentially
Yeah.
Pollock leaving, but we haven't had a clean sheet in possibly like 3 months now. So
It's
I think
12 games or something, isn't it? Yeah.
everyone's kind of focusing on the lack of striker, but I think realistically we could need a new centre back in there. I think Porteous is Porteous has been struggling for a little bit, and I don't know if Shiralta is a good enough replacement for him. And
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure if Pollock is, ready to start in the Championship. He's come on and done well, don't get me wrong, but I'm not sure if he's ready to start. I think maybe another
Yeah.
loan for him could be a sensible option, given he played so well when he went on loan to Aberdeen. But yeah,
Mm.
it's kind of a long-winded way of just saying I completely agree with what you're saying. Yeah, positions-wise, other than adding in maybe a centre-back.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair. I would agree with that.
Yeah, so James, if we want to just have a little look at some names that have been swirling around with Watford,
Yeah.
classic Kiefer Moore, which has been in the rumour mill for about a decade now.
Yeah. Our
Um,
annual Kiefer Moore link. Yeah.
yeah, Dowell DK,
Yeah.
is he still at
Yeah.
West Brom?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. I think
Yeah,
so.
I wouldn't complain about that. He always seems to play well when he plays Watford. There's a couple others from Italy and the like. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna butcher this name, but it's is it Gregor Defrel from Sassuolo.
That
Uh,
works for me. We'll just go with Defrel, mate.
yeah,
Why not?
and David Okereke from Cremonese. I
Yeah.
feel like they're both quite old, are they not? 28, 29?
I think, yeah, I mean, I think Defrel's in his 30s, mate,
Yeah,
32, so,
yeah, yeah.
so a little bit of a stopgap. But yeah. Interestingly, they're all rumours, and we all know how rumours work. All
Mm,
rumours of a big target forward, aren't they? Big, powerful target forward,
yeah.
which is obviously what Ismail wants. Um, but I mean, have you have, have you had any thoughts about any of those players? Which one you'd rather have? For me, I'd personally go for someone like Moore or DK,
Yeah.
mostly because of their knowledge of the league
Mm. Mm.
and they're proven at this level, particularly Moore. Um, I just think Kiefer Moore would be a real bully in the box.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I would like that, but I do wonder whether or not other clubs are a bit further along, supposedly with
Yeah.
negotiations on him.
Yeah. I don't know how it would work really. I think we don't have a lot of pace in the attack, so I don't know if
Oh,
don't
yeah.
know if more bringing in more would be the right option given that we already have Rajovic. I think out of the list of that, I'd be looking at maybe Defrel. I know he's 32 or something, but I think he can play out on the wing as well. And
Mhm.
I've heard some good things about him across Twitter. So maybe a bit more experience. I think Livermore's already proving that experience and age really doesn't show anything if you can work hard. So
Mhm.
maybe that could be an option to bring in.
The
Um,
only problem is his goal return, and I know he has been playing at Serie A, so slightly higher level than the Championship, but
yeah.
not many goals. Since he's been at Sassuolo, he's got 7 goals in 106 games.
Oh wow. That is that is shocking.
It's not great, is it? But he's clear. But for a forward, for the last couple of seasons, he's played near enough every league game, or he's had
Mm,
an appearance in near enough every league game. So his coaching staff clearly values him and what he brings to the
mm.
side. So yeah, yeah, agreed.
Potentially he offers something other than goals. Then if
Yeah,
he's only got
hopefully.
7 in 100 appearances.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, the usual. Is it James Lee's? is it Siliki
I
from
think it's
Rennes?
Saliki, yeah. Yeah, James Lay Saliki.
Yeah, that seems to keep coming around quite a lot. Yeah,
It's an interesting
maybe.
one, isn't it, that Saliki one? Because
Mm,
I would rather us plug the gap that we know exists in Livermore in case he gets injured or suspended. I'd
yeah.
rather us have a dedicated defensive midfielder that can come in because I don't think we need another ball carrying midfielder.
No, no.
Embe, Kone, Dalibasharu, Chakvatadze when he comes into that midfield, they're all capable of turning and driving forward.
Yeah.
So I just don't really want to. We've got to get that position right, is what I'm trying to say, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, and ultimately Livermore's not going to be around forever. Even though he probably could run forever.
I think he could, yeah.
It wouldn't be a bad thing, would it, to have some additional depth there? But yeah, other than that, there hasn't really been too much. Nothing's really in place as of yet for incomings. It's just a lot of rumours, as there usually is. You can add to the list of that the guy that was linked with us from Udinese on loan as centre back, but that
I
was
think
obviously
that can't,
quashed. So I
yeah,
think maybe they are in the market for a centre back by all accounts. If they are looking
yeah.
to put some of those links together. But yeah, other than that, anything else to mention, James, for the little transfer roundup?
Oh, no, I think a couple of points. We know that Ishmael has said that if there was going to be any deals, it would be one in, one out. So
Yeah,
we know that. He has come out and said that don't expect them to be like for like. So I suppose what we know there is I'm anticipating two, maybe three incomings before the end of the window. But I wouldn't I don't think but I don't think they're going to be like for like is what I'm saying. So
mm,
at least two coming in, and hopefully that that's in those positions that we've spoken about. But
yeah,
weirdly, I'm
mm,
I'm relatively happy with the size of the squad.
yeah,
Um, I like how we're performing. It feels weird to be sat where we are. Where are we? Ninth after 28 games, but you know we've only lost eight, and everybody else around us in the table has lost sort of 10, 12, 13 games. So
yeah,
it's strange. If we can just tighten up the mistakes, both going forwards and defensively, I think we very quickly shoot right up the table.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and that's with the squad that we've got. But yeah, I don't know. Did you have anything to summarize that with that, mate?
No, no. Other than I'm just agreeing with the point you just made there about just tightening up. Really, I think this has just been another year in the championship for really learning. Young
Mm,
players are getting a lot more experience, and yeah, I think it probably should just be noted quickly before we end off. Aspria as well, linked with was it Sporting Lisbon?
yeah,
And the club are valued in between 10 and 12 million euros or 10 and 12 million pounds. So you know what, I don't know if it would be the best for him to move there now. I think he should probably wait until the summer just to get some
yeah.
more goals and assists to his name. Um, but yeah, other
I
than
think
that, I think that's everything.
I think Watford would be foolish to sell Asprilla at this stage of the season. Um, given where we are in the table, we're in with a shout of the playoffs, and just to reiterate what we said at the start of the season, our pre-season prediction for Watford was it 12th to 5th, somewhere in that bracket.
Somewhere
So
in that bracket,
li-
yeah.
I literally sat slap bang in the middle of that. So
We're smashing it.
yeah, we're doing it. But yeah, just hopefully we can turn some of the draws into wins because I think that will be a fair reflection of where we've been over the course of this season.
Yeah, yeah, and the championship's constantly very congested. So like you said, a couple of wins together and you spring right up the table. As I think, as we proved, going from 21st to up to seventh.
Yeah, in the
In
space of a couple of weeks, wasn't it? Really?
literally like we went on that sort of 6 or 7 game unbeaten run, and all of a sudden we were thinking about the playoffs rather than relegation. So
Yeah,
it changes very
and
quickly.
it does.
We just need to tighten up those mistakes. But you know what? On to next week.
On to next week, cup game. I'll be fascinated to see what lineup we put out.
Mm.
Um, hopefully it's strong enough to go and try and get a win, because that'd be nice to get to the fifth round of the cup.
Yeah, yeah, and potentially a good little away days after that because I'm
We
looking
can
forward
only
to an
hope.
FA Cup away game, um,
Yeah.
rather than someone boring at home. No offense to the Southampton fans.
Sounds like they sold out though. It sounds like they're bringing a big following,
All
which is
right
at
then, all
least,
right then.
which is quite nice at least. Um, that
Mm.
their attention's still on the cup, which is good.
Yes, yeah. All right then. Thank you very much for listening to this week's Yellow Squared podcast. As just mentioned, we'll be back with an FA Cup special again in the fourth round at home to Southampton. And yeah, we will catch you again very soon. Take care.
See you later, everybody.